finally, on to our last speaker, Irena Bauman, who's a practicing architect and founder director of Bauman Lyons Architects in Leeds. We'll forgive you from coming from Leeds, Irena. We're not too prejudiced in a Sheffield meeting this evening, because you're also a Professor of Sustainable Urbanism at Sheffield University School of Architecture and the Chair of Yorkshire Design Review, patron of Urban Design Group and a Fellow of the Royal Society of Arts, and also the author of How to Be a Happy Architect. And what a very good point to end on for our final speaker. Irena, over to you.
I've been briefed by the organizers to try and speculate on some possible scenarios for the future. And of course, in a moment of time where change is so incredibly rapid, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, we didn't even know about Ebola, which is now taking apart the whole society. And this is the age that we are living in, of extremely rapid change. And we are now speculating about the next 50 years in order to make some kind of sense of the extraordinary wall of information that exists out there. Amazing amount of information, details and statistics and opinions. And just today we heard from 4 speakers, different elements that we might want to concentrate on, how to make a livable city, how to deal with poverty, how to deal with shortage of land, how to tackle energy. These are all individual problems. And what some people are saying is that we are living in an age of lack of ideas, shortage of ideas about how to resolve the enormity of what we are facing. So in order to talk about this issue of how our grandchildren will live, I prepared for this talk by trying to hear a number of voices out there, a number of possible frameworks which help us to define what it is that we have to deal with and what we have to do about it. So the first one, and this is a very personal story of how I'm trying to climb this wall of information, trying to find hooks that will allow me to get to the top and look down and have an idea of how on earth we're going to manage all of this. The first idea is really from James Lovelock, who's a very controversial scientist. In 2006, he wrote a book which literally changed the way I think, called Revenge of Gaia. And in that book, he suggested that for the 10,000 short years of humanity, they're very short in terms of geological age, humans thought that we were the masters of the universe, that we can control nature, and really all the decisions are really our decisions. But really we need to sort out how we're going to live, and the only enemy really was another man, another person. James is saying that Gaia, which is thank you, which is the earth we live on, is actually a system, an organism, and he compared it to to a landlady. I think he said old woman, but it was a landlady in a house full of teenagers, and the teenagers are getting more and more raucous, and she gets really fed up, and she evicts them eventually because they are parasitic and she's not happy. And he's saying that this is what we humans are doing to our Earth. We are behaving as parasites, and that Earth will not really tolerate it for much longer. And I think it's enough to just look around to know how powerful nature is and how it can take over very quickly what we have created. So that was the kind of a very, very major shift of thinking, actually we're not in control, and there is a possibility that we will lose control. I mean, so far all our debates in 4x4 have been about the possibility of us finding solutions to these enormous problems. I think we do need to start accepting that maybe we won't be able to control it. And then, in order to understand why it is that we are misbehaving so much, and what exactly is the problem, why are we about to be evicted, 28 scientists got together, renowned international scientists, worked with Stockholm Resilience Center, and in 2009 they created a framework to help us to understand where it is that we are misbehaving. And they created a suggestion that there are 9 planetary boundaries. There are 9 boundaries of safety within which we humans can operate. And if we disturb those boundaries, if we go beyond the safety, this is the point at which we can no longer control. Recently produced, I think it's just been published, he mapped, with the top one, the number of high-rise skyscraper, sort of wow buildings built in the last 10 years. And that hockey stick curve matches very closely the extraordinary rise of obscenely wealthy people. So there is a correlation there of the discrepancy of wealth that's growing, and unfortunately these people have the most power, both in terms of money and politics, and they are kind of floating above all our troubles. They are playing, they continue to play as if nothing was changing. So this is the level of the problem, and the scientists are saying that the job we've got to do for our grandchildren is to bend this curve. We can't just slow down. In order to prevent more, exceeding the safety boundaries in which we are operating, within this decade, we're halfway through it, we have to bend the curve. And we've got 5 years left of it, and the other curves are showing what happens if we delay our reaction. It's called panic and repent scenario. Depending when we panic and when we start repenting, there are so many things already set in motion that we will not be able to make significant change the longer we wait. So the question for me constantly, every day now, is why are we not more angry about it? Why are we not doing anything about it? And with that, it's very helpful to ring Sally Weintraub. She's a psychoanalyst. Last year she published a book called Engaging with Climate Change, Psychoanalysis and Interdisciplinary Perspectives. It's about 10 essays from different psychiatrists, and they are analyzing why we are in denial of climate change. Now, what is the reason? They call it disavowal. Apparently we are beginning to accept that climate change is happening, but at the same time we find literally hundreds of reasons of why we either can't do anything about it, or it's not our fault, or why should I do something if you're not doing something, and why is this country going to do this if the other country is not going to do it, and maybe it'll go away anyway, and we had in the past those kind of problems. So we are just constantly inventing reasons. And I was trying to think, how can I show it? This is very, very visual, architects are very visual. How can I show it? Because we have to learn how to talk about these things, but we are in disavowal. And one way to do it is, and I was frightened when I saw how much there was in that methodology, to compare the apocalyptic visions which we are producing and the ones which are actually happening in real time on the ground. And I just compared two apocalyptic films. One is The Day After Tomorrow, the library scene. The film was made in 2004. The other slide is Hurricane Katrina, which was only 2 years later. The kind of displacement that happened due to severe weather event. Another scene from The Day After Tomorrow, 2004, Superstorm Sandy in New York, 2012, a few years later, very similar scene. The movie Road, which is really, really scary, 2010. 4 years earlier, before that film was made, we had Hurricane Katrina and Superdrome, and this very powerful image of what the supermarket trolleys were being used for. So now it's not very clear whether it's the film, that apocalyptic vision that's leading, or we're actually creating our apocalyptic ideas on the basis of what's really happening. Again, The Road, and 2010, and Australian Black Saturday bushfires in 2009, that kind of bleak landscape. So what I'm trying to say here really is that we go to see these movies and we scare ourselves, and we come out and we get into the car and we pick up the beef burger and we go to the nicely warmed up house and we feel so lucky. But actually this isn't really happening. This is just a bad dream. And of course it is happening for very many people already, and apparently by 2050 there will be 200 million people displaced. 200 million, I can't even comprehend that number, misplaced from the places, from the communities. So this is kind of really grim, and of course people are extremely inventive. It takes my breath away when you start thinking about what we are capable of. And there are some people who are really daring to look at these issues and have big ideas. Kind of very, very big ideas that might actually get us the kind of step change that we have to make in order to create a better future. Jeremy Rifkin is one of those people. He wrote 2 amazing books. One is called The Third Industrial Revolution, 2013. And it's worth just saying what it is that he says. He says that the great changes in human history always happen, revolutions, when new communication system meets new energy method. So the first one was steam and print, the second one was combustion engine and telephone, and now he says we are in third industrial revolution because we now have renewable, Steve's point, renewable energy meeting internet. This amazing internet is changing everything. And his big vision for the future is that we will be able to get out of this incredible problematic situation by creating great amount of energy out of solar panels, and also using the internet to change the way we work. So everything will be distributed. All the structures will become very flat. We're going to network, we're going to have collaborative commons, we're going to be very nice to each other, we're going to love to collaborate rather than to compete, and basically we'll create a much better society. So that's kind of technically driven vision. The one that I prefer, and which is much less debated, much quieter, is by New Economics Foundation. It's a book called Time is on Our Side. It also came out in 2013. And they are suggesting something so simple that it takes your breath away. They are economists, and they have calculated that if we all started working 3 days a week, not 5 that we're doing now, we will redistribute the work, we will redistribute the wealth, and we create the kind of time that we need to deal with some of the massive problems that we all discussed. You know, the care, the need for care, the need for the community that we all say we so much want. And that shift is actually happening. It is actually happening now. We are talking about community much more now than we did 20 years ago. We are beginning to green our cities, and we are certainly thinking about a different way of producing food. And of course, we are totally in love with the technology, and we are using it in many ways in a very good way. So just to wrap up really, it seems to me that we are in this decade of being able to make some serious moves, and that the solutions are very stark, and the options are very stark, because if we use our ingenuity in the positive way, then we can have the kind of life on your right here, the kind of the familiar life, but with a slightly different landscape. If we don't, then we will start having to address the kind of things which artists are more prepared to deal with than ourselves. This is an amazing installation of a climate change refugee camp in Berlin, because the whole point is to stop shipping out the problem of climate change into the southern hemisphere, which is what we always do. If you search the Google for climate change refugees, you only get southern hemisphere. We still don't have any images of western and northern hemisphere in trouble. And some artists are beginning to make the point that actually our cities will become refuges for environmental refugees, and none of the speakers so far in 4x4 has spoken about the need for hospitality. Now, how are we going to accommodate millions, literally millions of climate refugees? And really probably the biggest question is not what can we do, because we actually know, there's so much science now, so much understanding of what needs to be done, but politicians are not making the decisions at all. I mean, they're really not. That's a beautiful artistic expression of this. I think it's called paddle sculpture. They are drowning while they are talking about it. But most surprisingly, we, individuals, are not doing anything about it, because the greatest changes in society usually come when there's grassroots movement, when people themselves want the change. And I've just been to the climate change demonstration in London 4 weeks ago, I think. It was lovely, with 40,000 people there, but 40,000, it's just the size of a big football match. It is not the kind of grassroots movement that we need. And each one of us is very busy saying that it's not really my fault, it is not me who can change it. So really I thought I'd just plant a really strong question to get the discussion going, possibly, which is not so much about what we can do, but what will we do? What will we do about our grandchildren's future? Thank you.